Hi, welcome back to part 4 of Christianity. Apologies, by the way, that we have we have so many videos for Judaism and Christianity, and then Hinduism and Buddhism only had 2. So I think I may have skimmed through more of Hinduism and Buddhism, and I'm doing more details with Judaism and Christianity. But okay, it's good though. More detail is good. All right, so let's head back to finishing up Christianity. Now, let me explain. There's probably going to be a question on the final test, or on the Christianity test, that says, what are the 3 reasons why the Eastern Orthodox and the Catholics split, and what are the differences? So make sure that there are 3 reasons for the split, and then an additional 3 differences. So that's like 6 things altogether. All right. So just make sure that you know that. So, first of all, the Roman Catholics and the Eastern Orthodox are 2 branches of the same faith, Christianity. So they're not 2 different religions, okay? So they have the same Christian doctrines, same 7 sacraments. Now, there are 3 reasons why they split. So if you remember the map at the beginning, in terms of like how the Roman Catholics were on one side and the Orthodox were on the other, you can see that the Western Catholic Church was developing really quick. They came over to kind of tell the Eastern churches, oh, by the way, we're doing it this way. But the Eastern Church already had an established protocol for the same practices. So they had already been doing their own thing. So essentially, because of the distance, when the Catholic Church came over to say, this is how we're doing things, they had already been doing things their own way. And so there was a difference between that. So that's one reason. Second reason is the environment around the developing church is very different. The Roman Catholics kind of went into the old Roman Empire, so they're essentially developing in Southern Europe, which was already kind of under one umbrella, even though they're very diverse countries and things like that. So they were more receptive to a growing religion, while the Eastern Orthodox really is kind of a conglomeration of 6 or 7 different types of churches. They have, the Eastern churches in Russia, Eastern Europe, Turkey, the Middle East, Syria. So that's like, though all those different countries are very, very different from each other. Not to say that Western Europe or Southern Europe, they're all the same culture. That's not true. But Catholics, the Roman Catholic Church was actually going into the remnants of the old Roman Empire. So there was some sort of uniformity there that wasn't there in the Eastern branch. So second reason, you got to look at the environment in which these 2 different, churches are developing. The Roman Catholics are developing in Southern Europe. The Eastern Orthodox are developing in a hugely diverse, geographically, politically, socially diverse area where there's all these different kinds of Orthodox churches. Third reason, starting in the 7th century in Saudi Arabia, Islam starts to come up and quickly advances. And one of the things that the Muslims do is they take over Turkey and essentially close the door of communication between the Western Church and the Eastern Church. So if the Muslims are smack dab in the middle and kind of like coming up into Southern Europe, even if the Roman Catholics and the Eastern Orthodox wanted to get together, they can't because the Muslims are in the way. So that kind of sealed the deal. That was a third reason, is because the Muslims had taken over Turkey, basically blocked any kind of communication between the 2 branches, and that kind of sealed the deal in terms of 1045 and the Great Schism. Okay, so because of that, the 3 differences between the Eastern Orthodox and the Catholics is, number 1, Eastern Orthodox are very different regarding the teaching of issues, meaning they generally only consider things doctrinal or doctrines if they come from the Bible. So don't confuse that with Protestants. Eastern Orthodox also adhere to the Bible as well. So there's a lot of different Roman Catholic concepts that Catholics have at one point believed in, and sometimes they don't believe in them anymore, but kind of the Orthodox never did. Concepts like purgatory or immaculate conception or the virgin birth or the Assumption of Mary. So I will let you take a look at these different things. Underline this statement: the Immaculate Conception has nothing to do with the conception of Jesus. So I'll repeat that. The Immaculate Conception is not the conception of Jesus in Mary by the Holy Spirit. You may have been taught that. You may have presumed that. You may have been thinking that all along. But the Immaculate Conception has to do with the conception of Mary, her conception as a tiny little, egg and sperm in her mother's womb, who was named Anna. So it actually has nothing to do with Jesus. So please underline that at some point. Do not put it on the test that the Immaculate Conception is when the Holy Spirit impregnated Mary with Jesus. Do not write that on the test. Okay, I will let you look at these other things here. Second difference is the Eastern Orthodox Church. They don't have a kind of a universal church or one hierarchy like the Catholics do. Catholics have the Pope at the head, and the power kind of comes down vertically. It's the Pope, and then it's the College of Cardinals, then it's archbishops, then it's bishops, then it's priests, sometimes monsignors, then deacons, and then the riffraff like us. So the Roman Catholics are a unified one church. Eastern Orthodox have many different branches instead of one universal one. The four major branches are I have it listed here, the Eastern Orthodox, Oriental, Nestorian, and Eastern Catholics. And then, overall, there are about 13 different branches that are under these four umbrellas. All of these branches, these patriarchs, the patriarchs are the heads of each of these branches, make decisions kind of independently, and they have gotten together maybe 7 times over the course of 1,000 years to kind of universally make, doctrinal decisions all together. So they're not unified in terms of the Catholics. And then the personality is very different. It's much more varied because, as I pointed out before, the Eastern Orthodox, are some of them are in Russia, some of them are in Algeria, some of them are in Greeks, so very diverse culturally and socially. And the style of the church is not so much like the Catholics, where I'm in your face, I'm gonna tell you what to do. Eastern Orthodox are more introverted, they're more introspective. They have, I'm sure, the same theological reasoning and concepts that the Catholics do. They just don't feel the need to kind of publicize it and to announce it to the world, their different policies regarding social issues or cultural issues or even political issues, like the Catholic Church does. The Catholic Church tends to be a little bit more extroverted. All right, so let's go over the differences between the Protestants and the Catholics. We covered most of the basic ideas of the Protestant branch in the history. I wanted to point out once again Martin Luther, who's the German Catholic monk, and his concept of the justification by faith. And then John Calvin, who was the Swiss-French reformer, who comes up with the notion of the Protestant principle, the idea that we can get rid of all that liturgy and ritual and stuff like that, and that the Bible is the only authority. One thing I wanted to point out is a difference between the Protestants and Catholics is that the Protestants don't believe in those 7 sacraments, nor do they believe in transubstantiation, in the Eucharist, that the bread and wine actually become the body and blood of Christ, right? So the 2 sacraments they do have are baptism and the Eucharist, except the Eucharist is only symbolic. It actually isn't the body and blood of Christ. It just represents it. So those are the 2 that they keep because those are the 2 that Jesus actually participated in. Okay, so I wanted to point out that one of the ideas that John Calvin had was the Protestant principle. The other thing that he came up with was the notion of predestination, which is kind of a cool thing, John Calvin said that God is not restricted by time. God sees the past, present, and future all at once. Because if he couldn't see something, he wouldn't be God, because God is all-knowing. If that is the case, he kind of sees the past, present, and future kind of like a snapshot. He knows what will happen in the future, which means God knows who is going to be saved and who is not, because he knows the future. He knows who's walking through those pearly gates, right? So if that's the case, some of us are predestined to be saved and some of us are not. Now the problem is, who knows? Only God knows, right? So how do we best understand the notion that some of us are saved and some of us are not? And Calvin said the best way to do that is to behave as if you are saved. Because if you behave as if you are saved, the likelihood is more in the favor that you are as opposed to not. So if you sit around and you watch TV and you just are lazy and selfish, you're probably not saved. If you are helping your neighbor and you do charitable works and you're working to better society and you help, fight climate change and you do all these things, you're probably saved. So he says, even if you don't know, act like you are, and the likelihood is that you might be. And you are doing good for society. So it's kind of an incentive. If you don't know that you're saved, act like you do, and you are only bettering yourself and bettering society. So it's kind of like a brilliant idea of getting people off their butts and getting to work. So some people say that this kind of notion of predestination was a turning point for the Industrial Revolution, because people actually got up and started to do things, in order to kind of prove that they were saved, which is very funny. Okay, so that's the notion of the predestination. In terms of just the fundamental timeline, I want you to remember that 1517 is when the Protestant Reformation begins, because it's Martin Luther's first public declaration. 1534 is when we have the Protestant branch, because King Henry forms the Anglican Church. In terms of the church structure, there are 255 denominations, branches within the Protestant Church, and they vary from what's called low church to high church. Low church is like the Unitarian Universalists or the Congregationalists, where the power is really within the congregation to make decisions about where their church is going. Okay? High church is when it's really up to the bishop or the priest or the church clergy or the church council that decides how the church is going to be run. So it's like, is the power up here? Is the power down here? And the Protestants have run the gamut. You can have low church, you can have a high church. You have all sorts of different kinds. So that's a big major difference between the Protestants and the Catholics. Protestants really have no centralized structure. They have 255 denominations or branches within this entire branch that are sometimes loosely affiliated, but oftentimes they're not. While the Catholics have the unified structure, which all power is derived or comes down from the Pope, one single individual. So that's a major difference between the two. All right, so that is Christianity. I would say that if you're thinking about what's going to be on the test, probably, what was Christianity like before, during, and after Constantine? Give me a basic biography of Jesus's life, including the birth narratives and his Passion Week. Probably something like what are the three reasons why the Eastern Orthodox split from the Catholics, and what are the differences, and then maybe differences and similarities between Protestants and the Catholics. So essentially, know this PowerPoint, know the Smith reading, and hopefully these 4 videos will help you understand the PowerPoint a little bit more. Okay? All right, onwards and forwards. Okay, bye.